Hello and a very warm welcome to you. Once again, thank you for tuning in and for watching as Influencers of Times continues to go in search of Britain's most forgotten places and diminishing worlds. I'm very pleased to say that we are at our next location. So a very warm welcome to you in this next fascinating episode in the Influencers of Time series. Now, as you were probably watching, and for those of you who weren't, yesterday I was just outside Walsall and in the Midlands, and we were about 10 minutes away from Great Bar Hall, which was a fascinating 13th century, or what's left of a 13th century mansion on what was the Great Bar Hall estate. And I was about 10 minutes away from there at a very old, abandoned and ruined house, and that house belonged to, or so reports say, the house belonged to a doctor who actually lived there and who took care of the church or the chapel nearby. And if you were watching yesterday, you probably remember that I actually said that we would try to get to our next location, and I obviously didn't give you many clues. I didn't say where we were coming or anything else, but I'm very pleased to say that we're here, and you can probably see that just by looking behind me. Now, my apologies firstly if this broadcast is reaching you very late in the afternoon. Obviously it's we're live. It's now Tuesday the 4th of October 2016, and I'm consciously aware it's probably about 4:30, 4:45 in the afternoon. So obviously this broadcast is reaching you very late. It's taken all this time, and in fact I actually set off at 10 to 11 this morning to get to this location. It's taken hours to get here, and it's taken an awful long time to walk here. So my apologies firstly for the lateness of this broadcast. However, I am pleased to say that we're here. Now, you're probably kind of a lot of questions as to about where we am and all the rest of it. So let's start straight away. Firstly, I can see lots of people tuning in and watching already. So thank you so much for tuning in and watching. It's very pleased to see, and it's lovely to see some people returning. I can see some people that are watching for maybe the second or third time. So a very warm welcome to you, and welcome back to this amazing series that I'm going to be covering over the next however long it takes to bring you to every single nook and cranny, every corner, in search of Britain's most derelict and abandoned places, and this is certainly one of them. So, all that to one side, where am we? Okay, I've actually brought you over 100 miles south east of Birmingham. So I'll give you an idea of how far we've travelled. And just to kind of very quickly, for those of you who are watching for the second, third time, first time, or for those of you who have been watching every single time, first of all, can I just say a very big thank you to you. Thank you for your support. I've had some amazing feedback. I've had some lovely text messages. I can see people sending comments saying hi, hello to you. Thank you for your support, for tuning in, for watching, and for giving me the time in your daily lives. And whether you're watching, obviously you'll be watching me on your mobile phones, thank you for just giving me that time to just spend that time with you in this fascinating series. But thank you for all your support, for every time you've tuned in, for all your comments, for all your feedback. It really does help, and I can honestly say, hand on my heart, that it really does spur me on, and it keeps me going, because this, believe it or not, is very tiring. Lots of travelling, getting up very early in the mornings. You'll be actually quite surprised. Doing a live broadcast can make you kind of anxious and nervous before, because you're conscious it's live. There's lots of people watching. It can't, I find it fascinating, and I love doing it, and I will continue to do it. And I promise you that I will take you to every abandoned and derelict place that I can find in the whole of the United Kingdom. So please keep watching. Please keep sending your highs, your thank yous, your feedback, your positive comments, because it really does spur me on. Because this is not only a fascinating journey that I'm on, it's also a very tiring and very long journey. But your support is absolutely crucial, and I thank you hand on heart for all your support. Anyway, let's get started. Okay, so just to give you an idea, we've travelled, as I mentioned, just over 100 miles. I'm currently kind of kneeling, by the way. If you're wondering why I'm a bit kind of low down, it's because, one, so that you can see the location behind me, but two, it's actually because I'm broadcasting from my new tripod. It's very short. It's probably half the size of me, and I'm short anyway, so I'm having to kneel in the grass so that you can see both me and what's behind me. So without further ado, I welcome you to an 18th century orangery. Now, this orangery, we're currently, right now, we are in what's known as the Pangshanger Park or Nature Reserve. It's a massive area. It covers an enormous area. It has reservoirs, a river, lakes, birds, kingfishers, there's wildlife everywhere, there's lots of forestry and trees around me. So we are right in the heart of Pangshanger Nature Reserve and Park, just outside Welwyn Garden City in Hertfordshire. Now we're probably closer to Hertford or Hertford rather than Welwyn Garden City. Welwyn Garden City is probably about 3 or 4 miles away from here. So to give you an idea of how far I've had to walk from the train station. However, it was worth it. Definitely worth it. And not only that, I want to keep my promise to you, which is bring you to these locations, no matter how long it takes, no matter how late, no matter how far it takes to get here. I want to keep that promise to you, and that's my promise to you, that I will do everything I can to get you to these locations so that you can sit and watch and see. There we go. So we are currently a couple of miles outside Welwyn Garden City in Hertfordshire, in the beautiful countryside of Pangshanger Estate. Now, this behind me is what's left of an orangery. Now, for those of you who have watched right from the start, for those of you who are watching for the first, second, third time, whatever the case may be, we have covered, as you probably well know, and for those of you who have visited my website or even just follow me on my Facebook page, you will know we've covered an awful lot of locations. We've covered everything from the 13th century Great Bar Hall mansion, what's left of it. We've covered Dudley's oldest railway tunnel, which I've been there 3 times. We did a live broadcast, a pre-recorded message, and we did a nighttime live broadcast a couple of weeks ago. We've been to some of Dudley's oldest canal tunnels. So we've done Cosley Tunnel, Netherton Tunnel. We've covered a fascinating derelict and abandoned college only about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And if you haven't seen that live broadcast, please have a look, because it really was absolutely fascinating. And in fact, it was so fascinating that I actually did it in 2 parts. The first part was the main part of the building where the reception was. The second part was where all the artifacts were, the furniture, books, clothes. There was all sorts there. So if you haven't seen that, have a look at that one, because that really is fascinating. And as I mentioned, so fascinating that I had to go back, reinvestigate, and do another live broadcast. So we've covered lots of areas. And in fact, all in all, already I've covered about 15 to 20 locations, and I've actually brought you to every single one, whether it's either a pre-recorded message or a live broadcast. We, as in me and you watching, have covered over 250 miles, between 250 and 300 miles already in just those 15 or dozen or so locations. We've probably travelled back in time as far back as the 13th century. That's the earliest, and in fact it was not only Great Bar Hall but also the Samuel Priory that we did last weekend. So we've actually travelled back in time probably several hundred years already. So it gives you an idea of the journey that we've made already. And I'm aware that yesterday the information that I gave about the doctor's house was very vague, very sketchy. However, we've uncovered some fascinating details, some fascinating stories, and I will continue to do that for you for definite. So, this behind me, as I mentioned, it's what's left of the Orangery. Originally, now, there isn't a lot of information, and I know I said yesterday that I would do some research and do some Googling and try and find out what I could find. Once again, unfortunately, this location has very little information. It doesn't give any details or any information about what it was used for or anything. It doesn't say. The only thing it says is that this was built around 1854. Originally, there was a house here, not far away from here, called Pangshanger House. It was built in 1854. And then the Orangery and the conservatory was built around about the same time, and that's all it says. That is all the information it gives on this location. Now, the house was actually demolished to make way for what is now used, and believe it or not, Tarmac, the huge concrete company, the massive company Tarmac, has actually bought the majority of this parkland. And I believe that house was demolished in 1954 to make way for not so much the improvements but the development of this area. And I believe that the house would have been roughly where some of the quarry or the quarries around this particular site or location now is. So the house has been completely demolished. Now I'm sure, being so old, it would have fallen apart and been ruined and abandoned and probably fallen apart anyway. It's just such a shame because it would have tied in with this location here. However, the house is no longer here. It's been completely, there's just nothing left. I don't even know where the house was. I don't know how far away it was from here, but it's completely gone. So this is all that's left of the 13th century Pangshanger house. That is all the information I can give you, believe it or not. It's such a shame, and as I mentioned yesterday, it's so frustrating for me, and especially today because I can see lots of people watching, and it really is frustrating for me because I can't give you the information to make it more interesting for you. I just find it really frustrating. I can't even clutch at straws because there's no information to tell me. And you're more than welcome to Google Pangshanger Orangery as well yourselves. It would be impossible for me to take you in there and for me to even try and tell you what's what, because it just doesn't say. Somewhere like an Orangery is completely different from all the other locations. As I mentioned, we've done tunnels and all sorts. This is just a completely different kettle of fish altogether. However, it still makes it fascinating because it's an Orangery, and so we're looking at something, and I'm bringing you and taking you and showing you somewhere which I've never covered before. Now, I actually didn't realise this Orangery even existed. Only until last week was I actually looking at other locations, and I came across or stumbled across this location here. So I didn't even know this location even existed, and in fact I came here just last year and I didn't even know it was here. Now it is tucked away. You have to go up a kind of what was the old driveway, and then it kind of, you've got all these trees surrounding it, and then you kind of walk past it. There's like a little driveway that goes up to the front of the Orangery, and it's just there. So it really is in the middle of nowhere. So if you don't know what you're looking for, you would never know it's here. It's surrounded by trees, forest, countryside. The park is enormous. It covers acres and acres and acres, so there's nothing around for you to even be able to get any way of. There's no hills, there's no high points, there's no roads, there's nothing. And you can probably hear and tell there's no traffic anyway. So this literally is in the middle of, almost in a way in the middle of nowhere, even though it's in the middle of the park, the nature reserve. So I can't give you any information about this Orangery. However, it does give a history about Pangshanger House and the history of the people who would have stayed and resided in this area and possibly used this Orangery. Now, I can't remember all the names and the dates. I just can't. There's quite a lot of information. However, what I will do is I will put all the information, not so much on my Facebook page, but on my website either today or tomorrow, over the next couple of days. I will put all that information along with the information that I've just told you, which is that this was an Orangery, but I will put all that information on the website. And I know I say this every time. If you go to www.camdronephotography.co.uk, and if you click on portfolio, a heading portfolio, under there it will open up a couple of headings, and under there will be influences of times. There'll be an introduction to the page, and this is kind of a spin-off from my cam drone photography, and then it will go, you'll have all the places that I visited, every single location including today's. Now, another thing you've probably noticed is that we're sitting outside the location. Now, the reason for that being is because every time I've tried to do a live broadcast in the last half an hour, 45 minutes, the signal is completely gone. That's why I'm having to do the broadcast from outside or just outside the location. So even if I take you in there, we're going to lose the signal. For some reason, it just disappears, or it becomes very weak. It will become very blotchy and then it disappears. Now, I've actually tried 2 attempts to do a live broadcast, and both times the signal has completely cut off, and I've had to literally just stop and restart again. So this is the third time, so third time lucky. So I'm not going to be able to take you in there. Now, I could try, but as I mentioned, it's just going to cut off. We're going to end up with a really blotchy, weak signal, and then it's just going to lose the signal altogether, and then we'll be left with nothing. half a message, or I'll have to start again. So that's why I'm broadcasting to you from outside rather than inside. What I have done is I have taken lots of photographs inside the Orangery today, outside and inside the location, and believe it or not, there is an inside to there, but we'll go and have a look. I'm not going to take you in there, but I will point to the different bits. But I've taken lots of photographs both inside and outside, and I will put them on my website along with my Facebook page today, tomorrow, the next couple of days, as I mentioned, along with the information that's on the website. So I will put all that, or should I say the internet, and I will put that all on my website. So how's about I pick you up and we go and have a little look. Like I said, I'm not going to take you in there because it will just cut off, so I'm going to pick you up. So bear with me. Oh. See? That's what happens. The camera flops. Right, let's try that one again, shall we? So if I hold the camera this time, there we go, that's better. And I'll bring you a bit closer. So if I just pan the camera this way, you can see that there. Now that's what's left of the observatory. And that was built at the same time as the Orangery. Now, when I say observatory, to me, that's somewhere where people would have sat. So it's an extension of something. Obviously, it's connected to the Orangery, so it would have been an extension to that. It could well have been also an extension to the house, who knows. But that's what's left of the observatory. Now, they have actually gone in there, put some scaffolding in between the walls to keep the walls upright and to stop them from collapsing and falling inwards. And they've also built some trellises. I don't know if you can see the wooden trellises just inside each kind of window. And that's because it's autumn, there's nothing there, but in the summertime it's covered in ivy and there's lots of like wild plants and stuff growing. So that's obviously to encourage the wildlife and the plants to grow around those trellises. It also strengthens, at the same time, it strengthens those walls. And again, it stops them from caving in, collapsing, falling in. But that's the observatory. So the observatory would have been used, as me and you know, an observatory is somewhere where you sit. Somewhere where you can sit, have something to eat, drink, unwind. So that, believe it or not, would have been, and it's fascinating to see it, the 13th century observatory. Can you imagine how that's a long time? It's the 13th century and we're now in the 21st. So it gives you an idea of several hundred years old that observatory or conservatory is. Observatory. Observatory. But anyway, I think you get my drift. I'm just trying to remember all the information, or what information there was. So that would have been it over there. So let's go to the Orangery. Now, believe it or not, that is all there is to show you. I can bring you a bit closer. In fact, what I will do is bring you a little bit closer so you can have a better look at it. But you're going to have to look through the fence, because if I take you anywhere near that building or even start going in there, we're just going to lose the signal. So if I just bring you this way, I'm going to walk backwards. And if I take you up to the fence. So there you can see the observatory. So you can see the ivy that's growing. Not doing very well today. You can see what I'm there. So you can see all the ivy that's growing. But that's what's left of the observatory. Fascinating. And what's really lovely about this, it's got a really nice Mediterranean look to it. So it's got, I don't know, it just, I mean, oranges remind me of a hot country anyway, or the Mediterranean. But it really has got some kind of, I don't know, not an auditorium kind of look or Colosseum look. I suppose in a way it has that look as well. But it does have that kind of vineyard, Mediterranean-y kind of feel and look to it. But that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of a very warm, hot country, Mediterranean. Anyway, here we are at the main entrance of the Orangery. So you can see. So there's the main entrance there. That would have been the main entrance there. And again, they've just put a wooden trellis just inside the door, just to strengthen the brickwork. And you can see if I pan, it's huge. It's made up of massive columns. Can you see? But can you see what I mean about? If I just pan the camera that way, can you see? Massive, huge. So you can see the observatory down the bottom, but you can see what I mean. It's just got this fascinating Mediterranean kind of grand kind of look to it. It's absolutely fascinating. Now, believe it or not, that is all that's left. There's nothing behind apart from one flight of steps, and I'll go into that in a minute. But there's actually nothing behind that wall, and there's actually nothing, as you can see, there's nothing in there apart from looking straight through the other side. So if you stand at either end, if you go in there, there's nothing in there. There's absolutely nothing. It's just an empty shell. But how fascinating to think that that's an orangery, 13th century orangery. Now, the other fascinating part about it is, and you can't really see it from here, and I'm going to try and see if I can show you so that you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Can you just make out that circle bit there? That little bit there? See it? That? To me, it's actually filled with a couple of centimetres of water. Now, to me, that could have been a fountain, it could have been a statue, it could have been some kind of centrepiece. So as you walked into the orangery, that would have been some kind of monument, or like a statue, or like a fountain, or something really nice in the middle there, because it's got a nice circle and it's made with bricks, and it's really nice the way it's made. So it could have been something like that. Now, if you go around the back, so if you go straight through, or even if you go to the other end and go just behind that wall, there's a flight of steps that go down, and I've actually gone down there and taken some photographs, so you'll be able to see on Facebook and the website later or tomorrow. That flight of steps, there's only one flight of steps. It actually goes underground, and it goes underneath this orangery, and it goes underneath that circular part as well. So there's actually one tunnel that runs the full length of this entire orangery. At the far end, which is that end down there, there's a room. Now, there's nothing in there. There's kind of an arch-shaped brickwork design on the wall. There's a brick something on the floor. I don't know what that was, whether that's covering something, but there's a small brick kind of. It's not a design. It's just like it's not a mound of bricks. It's been made, but it's covering something, or it was something. Now, I don't know what that could have been. That could have been a press room. Who's to say that wasn't used for pressing the oranges, extracting the juice? There's nothing. There's no fixtures left. There's absolutely nothing in there apart from an empty room with like I said, the stonework in there, and it's really dark. Obviously, it's really dark, but there's actually nothing. It's quite a big room, and there's a little square well in the floor. So it could have been used for pressing the oranges and for extracting the juice, possibly. I'm assuming the reason why, and as you walk through the tunnel on both sides, it runs off into a very tiny, small shaft. Now, the shaft doesn't go very far, it only goes as far as the foundations of this orangery. But it is really dark down there, and there's room for what I would say could have been where they would have stored the oranges, because it's cool down there, possibly. Now, the tunnel itself is actually very small. There's only enough room for maybe 1 or 2 people at the most. But I'm wondering if that's maybe where they stored, and in these kind of little shaft areas, I'm wondering if that's where they would have stored the oranges, whether they were stored in crates or something. Again, it's just speculation. I've got no idea. But there is a tunnel that runs the full length of this orangery. Like I said, you've got the room at the other end. Now, at the far end, the end nearest to the observatory, there isn't a room at all. There's nothing. It's just the tunnel reaches a dead end. Now, there must have obviously been, although having said that, there isn't steps that come off the tunnel. There's only one flight of steps, so you could only go into the tunnel and out of the tunnel one end. That was it. But there's nothing that end. The tunnel just stops. But it goes the full length of this whole orangery, and it runs underneath that circular section, and it goes past. At various intervals, you've got 1, 2, I think you've got 2 or 4 vents. So as you walk through the tunnel, you have this kind of like shaft, or not really a shaft, but more like a square hole. So obviously it would have been like vents. It's clear that there's vents. There's a lot of old ceramic pipe work down there, and fragments of pipe and stuff on the floor. So that could have been anything. That could have been the remnants of the waste pipes. It could have been the water pipes. It could have been ventilation, because obviously there must have been some kind of ventilation down there, because the tunnel's fairly deep. It's not really deep, but it's fairly deep, deep enough for it to be dark. So it could have been ventilation pipes that would have then gone to vents which have circulated the air. Again, I don't know. It's so hard when you come to these places and there's nothing to go by. I'm literally speculating and guessing, and I could be completely wrong, totally wrong, but I don't know. I've got no idea. Now the floor inside the Orangery, you can see it's all overgrown. It's not flat or level. It's quite strange in a way. As you go in and you go to the central piece, you've almost got like a raised rectangle section, and around the outside you've got a little gully, like a little, it's like a gully, but it's wider than, you know, like the side of the street or something. You've got like gully that the water runs along. It's wider than that, about a foot wide, and it's square. It's not circular, it's square. But it runs around each rectangle piece. So it runs around the outside of this piece here, and it runs around that piece there. But I've got no idea what that would have been used for, and I don't know why you've got those rectangular pieces of land inside either end. I don't know. And then you've got like the brickwork which surrounds the circular bit in the middle, and then you've got the circular bit in the middle. So you've got like what's left of an outer circle, and then you've got that circular bit which I showed you just a minute ago, just there, and that's all that's left. It's just so hard, really difficult to give you the information when it's not there. Like I said, it's really frustrating because I'm consciously aware that it's not as interesting as I would have liked it to have been, or as interesting as I want it to be for you. It's okay for me because I'm here and I'm finding this interesting being here, but you're not. You're watching from wherever you am, at home, travelling, doing whatever you're doing, and I'm not able to give that information, and it's frustrating for me because I just want to make it, as I mentioned yesterday, as fascinating and as interesting for you. But that is absolutely it, believe it or not. That is all that's left of the Orangery. There's nothing else left. Nothing behind the wall, apart from bits of rubble, bits of debris, bits of wood, bricks, what's left of brickwork from this behind. That one flight of steps that goes down to the tunnel, and like I said, I would love to take you in there and take you down that tunnel, but we'll just lose the signal straight away, and then we'll end up with nothing. So that's why I'm staying outside. But that's all there is in there. There's nothing else. But it's still fascinating to think that this is a 13th century Orangery, and it's a beautiful location. It's set in a beautiful place, and it's a beautiful thing to look at. You can see the design up there, almost like, that reminds me of, I don't know, like to me it's just got that Mediterranean kind of look to it. But that's all I can show you, and that is all I can tell you, I'm afraid. And I'm so sorry, I really am. I suppose in a way I just don't want to let you down, and it's not that I feel I'm letting you down, because I'm still able to broadcast to you from this location. But I don't know, I just was hoping to be able to show you or tell you more. And I was certainly hoping to be able to do a live broadcast from in there. But it's just not possible. Like I said, the signal's just so bad in there, and then once we go underground, that's it. We'll just lose everything, and then I'll just have to either catch up where I was, or just, so it is frustrating. And like I said, I just, you know, I don't want to let you guys down, because I want to be able to tell you everything there is to know. And obviously you can look for yourselves anyway. You don't have to rely on me. You can, you know, you can look for yourselves, you can Google yourselves, you can look at the photographs yourselves, you can find out for yourself. But part of the excitement and part of the fascination for me is to be able to do all the research for you, so that you don't have to do that, so that you don't have to spend time, although you're spending time watching me, but that you don't have to spend time looking up and reading. That's if you're interested, you might not be. But I'm consciously aware that people are maybe relying on me to give you that information, and it's just frustrating when I can't give you that information. So all I can do is apologise and say that I'm sorry if, once again, this location isn't as fascinating or as interesting as previous ones, or if this hasn't been as interesting as you thought it might be. Maybe you've watched yesterday's broadcast and you've tuned in especially today, and it's kind of a bit of a downer, and that's what I don't want to happen. But all I can do is apologise. I can only give you what I know. And sometimes when you go into a location, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put this on the floor because my arm's aching, and I'm just going to kneel. I'm going to kneel in front of you. That's the first. There we go. Maybe a bit more. That's better. And I think sometimes when you go into these locations and there's not a lot of information, sometimes I can still give you some kind of information because there are signs or clues. You know, there's things lying about, or there's just something that I can go by. But it's just even more frustrating when the location doesn't have anything. There's no fixtures, when there's no clues or signs, or like yesterday, I felt like I was clutching at straws a little bit. And interestingly enough, can I just add very briefly, very quickly, it turns out that actually not only was that a doctor's house, but in fact that doctor's abandoned chapel house that we went to yesterday was also used as it was part of the Great Barhall colony. The colony, and it was actually used, as well as the doctor's house, it was actually used as a mediation between hospital and being what's the word I'm looking for? When you're well enough to go back, to your house and stuff. So it actually was used for people with tuberculosis and patients, and they actually stayed and lived and was treated in that house until they were well enough to go back home, or until they were well enough to travel or anything else. So interesting enough, that was actually used as it wasn't an asylum, it wasn't a hospital as such, but it was almost like a ward where people could stay. So that would tie in with what I said yesterday about some of the rooms look like wards almost. So just a little bit of information for you, and I will include that on my website as well. So I'm afraid that's all for today. I really can't show you anymore. I certainly can't tell you anymore. I'm already conscious that I've kind of been doing a lot of waffling in a way, excuse the expression, but I do feel like I've waffled a lot today, and that's only because I've just been trying to make this interesting and fascinating for you based on very little information, and that bit of information that I gave you actually about this was only very small. So I've tried to make it up by telling you other things as well, and I know some of the information that I've talked about today has only gone over previous broadcasts or yesterday, but that's all I can do for you, I'm afraid. So I do apologise if today wasn't as interesting or as fascinating as you thought it would be. However, I do hope that you found this slightly interesting, and even if you only found it a tiny little bit of interest or fascinating, just a tiny bit, then that's good enough for me, because in a way I feel like I've done my job. I've done what I came out to do. So thank you so much for your time and for tuning in and for watching as you join me, Influencers of the Times, as we continue to search and scan every nook and cranny and corner of the United Kingdom in search of derelict and abandoned places, and to uncover Britain's abandoned secrets, and to hopefully be able to uncover the hidden stories behind them, providing they're there in the first place. Because there's no point in me fabricating, otherwise this isn't really going to be what it's meant to be. If I fabricate, if I exaggerate, if I make stuff up, that's all very well, but then that's not being truthful. And the whole point of this is that what you see and what you hear is absolutely that question, spot on, truth, although I'm aware that some of the information I've given today or even in previous broadcasts have been speculation. So I don't claim that everything I'm saying is absolutely truth. I'm only saying what either I can assume would have been the case, just to give you an idea, or it is information that I've received already. So there you go. But thank you anyway for tuning in, for watching, and from me and from Pangshanger Orangery in the beautiful Hertfordshire countryside just outside Wellingham City. Until the next time, God bless you, enjoy the rest of your evenings, and thank you so much for tuning in, for watching, and please stay tuned. in a couple of weeks, in fact in about 2 weeks time, I will be doing a very special edition of the Influencers of Times. I will be doing 2 live episodes back to back, so I will be doing one location on one day and another location on the next, and I'm not going to tell you when I'm going to do those broadcasts, but the first broadcast I will be doing will be from Hertfordshire's most notorious, most well-known derelict and abandoned ruins and location. I'll be going to Munston Chapel, which is just outside Hitchin, just a couple of miles, or probably a mile or two outside of Hitchin itself. The second location I'll be doing the very next day, and I've done some research and it looks okay. I'm hoping I can get there okay. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere a bit. However, the next day I'll be doing a live broadcast from Clophill Church, or St Mary's Church, which is just outside Luton, so we're in the Bedfordshire area. Again, another very well-known, notorious location. So I look forward to bringing you those 2 very special live episodes of Influencers Times, and I look forward to having you guys to watch, and hopefully there's a lot more information, and I've already done some research and there really is a lot more information I can give you on them locations than this one here. So from me and this place, God bless, take care, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will speak to you very, very soon. And if I can do a live broadcast before that 2 weeks, I certainly will. If not, I will see you then. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned. Take care. Thank you. Bye bye.